it's Jonathan again. I've got a really important lesson for you today. This one is literally crucial and foundational to your understanding of the guitar. And although it may be complete review for some of you, for others of you, perhaps you've never learned this before. But basically, today we're just going to talk about the string names on the guitar and how they, relate to each other, and how you get to different notes on the guitar. It's about as basic as it gets, and it's also about as important as it gets too. So let's just start at the very beginning here. As you may know, the strings all have names and numbers as well. We usually call the lowest string, the one closest to the ground, it's also the highest in frequency. We call that string the E string, or number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 is the one closest to your head, and 1 is the one closest to your feet. So the string names are starting, I usually like to refer to strings from this way going down, just because it's easy. Also, most people do it that way. E, A, D, G, B, E. Those are the letter names for the strings. So E is the lowest string from a frequency standpoint, and E is also the highest string with the highest sound, right? So there's a few different ways you can remember that. I found various acronyms. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. So there you go. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. Eat all day, get big easy. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Eat a dog, get big ears. So you can see there's a few different ways. You can just make up your own funny acronym, or just memorize it outright. It's not really that hard, but you definitely need to know that we're dealing with E, A, D, G, B, and E as the strings on the guitar. Okay, so now going on from there, what makes this an A and this a C? Like, how do you get to that point, right? So if you've taken any music lessons before, then hopefully you know this already. But there are these things called tones and semitones, and a full tone is the space in between a full musical letter. For instance, between A and B is a tone. Between A and A sharp is half a tone, so we call that a semitone, right? So now all of the letter names have a semitone in between them, with the exception of between B and C. There is no semitone, so there is no B sharp or C flat. You call it sharp if you're adding a semitone to a letter, and you call it flat if you're taking a semitone away from a letter. For instance, G sharp is one semitone higher than a proper G tone, and G flat is one semitone lower than the proper G tone. So where were we? Oh yeah, there's no semitone in between B and C, and there's also no semitone in between E and F. Those are natural semitones. So those are the only two exceptions to the rule, okay? So let's just start on the open E string here, for instance. And then if we go up one fret, then remember we said there's a natural semitone in between, or from E to F. There's no E sharp, right? So you just go straight E to F. Then after that is F sharp, because we need to throw that semitone in there before we can get to G. So G is on the 3rd fret. And it carries on this way all the way up. We got G sharp, and then A sharp, B's at the 7th fret. C, remember, there's no, it's a natural semitone again. So we're up at B to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and E. So you can see that the E has now repeated itself at the 12th fret. It's called an octave, because the lower frequency, it's exactly the same letter name. If you have a 24 fret guitar, you could actually then play this octave again up there, right? So that pattern holds true for every string, except that on the 5th string, for instance, we start with an A as opposed to an E, right? So we go A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and back to A again, right? The same thing holds true on these other ones. Now, maybe we'll get into this on a different video, but the strings are actually all 1/4 apart. So if you talk about fourths in guitar, for instance, we got E, F, G, A. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So A is a 4th of E. And I don't want to really get into that too in depth today, but you can see that it holds true for all of the strings except for the B. The B is different that way, and there's a reason for that from a theory standpoint, which we're not going to get into, but just suffice it to say that it makes things a heck of a lot easier in terms of playing guitar. If they had held that 4th pattern all the way through, then chords would be virtually impossible to build. Your fingers would just be stretched all over the place. But because they did it that way, then it actually brings things together and makes it a much easier instrument to play than it would have been otherwise. So don't worry so much about why they are the way they are, but get used to knowing that they are what they are, right? So get used to knowing that, say for instance, the 6th string at the 5th fret is an A, right? That's very important. Especially, I would say, if you have to focus on anything. I know it can seem intimidating to learn the entire fretboard at once, but if you got to focus on anything, if you're going to take a shortcut, just learn the top 2 strings, right, or the bottom 2 strings, the E string and the A string, because the reason for that is that so many of your chords, especially with bar chords, the root note comes off of either the 5th string or the 6th string. So if you know those names, then you know what chord you're playing. For instance, that's a D chord, and this is my root right here, 5th string, 5th fret. That's a D, right? This is an A, and 6th string, 5th fret, that's an A, right? So I know that I'm playing the major pattern on the 5th fret. So it's between those two. If you know the letter names of these 2 strings, then you can build, very quickly come to any chord you want. So you can see I'm holding up this nice fine piece of paper, which I'll make available to download too, by the way, just below the video. You can download this or something similar to it. And basically all it is three columns and 3 fretboards essentially, right? And you can see at the top E, A, D, G, B, and E. So those represent the strings. And what I want you to do, because this is guaranteed the fastest way to learn, is to just go through and on every single fret, every single string, every single fret, go through and just write the letter name of the note. So for instance, just below the E, on that 1st fret, you just write an F, and then below that, an F sharp, below that, a G, right? Go down, finish the string, go over to the A, do that. Do one of these a few times over. Pretty soon you're going to find out that you're going to start not only seeing the patterns in the strings, but you're going to start, just knowing the strings better. You'll start seeing the just how they relate to each other better. You'll start learning the names. I found it took me a long time as I was trying to learn the names, and then finally my teacher said, "Hey, fill one of these out a few times," and sure enough, I did that, and boom, it stuck. I don't know, maybe your brain works differently than mine, but if it works the same, then guarantee you, then that's a quick way to go. And it seems kind of like practicing your times tables, but in a way, it is. That's what you need to do. You just need to practice and learn those, get those embedded, because if you don't know that, it's very hard for us to go further on and talk about scales and riffs and licks and all the other fun things that we can really get into. But this one here is foundational. Learn your string names, your tones and your semitones, And anyways, I hope that was useful for you, and we'll see you again next time.